Hi, welcome to Jadekind Gaming. I am Adam, and today I'm going to do a flip through and review of the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide for Dungeons & Dragons. I believe this was put out by Wizards of the Coast in partnership with Green Ronin. Yeah. And I've pretty much read through it all at this point. I skipped about 15 pages at the end of the fluff area to get onto mechanics, but otherwise read through just about all of it. Generally, let's get started here. Is, of course, as usual, beautiful cover. One of the ones with their glossy up till this point and then matte on this, like on their bigger hardcovers. Of course, right at the beginning, we get this map, which this is what the Sword Coast is. It's in Faerun, which is in the Forgotten Realms setting. This is the Sword Coast, and this book is about the Sword Coast and North. So this coast and this region up here, which is the northern region, I guess. So this is more or less what this book is about, is this area that's on this map right at the beginning. And they do begin, Chapter 1, Welcome to the Realms. And they do. They go over just sort of, here we go. That map there was somewhere around here. This portion, I believe. So, that is the section of a wider image here that we have of more of, or this whole thing, I guess, is northern Faerun. But, point being, what we're actually going over is even a smaller area, because, of course, we don't get, or maybe they're right, just they're the edges of the inner sea. So it's, you know, about here and there, and it's this area. So here's a larger image of more of Faerun, and yeah. But they go over a bit of just Faerun and the Forgotten Realms here to start. Currency, different regions, time, just because whatever, they have their own unique calendar. Brief history, so a couple pages of the history, just going over what has happened over time, how magic works in the Forgotten Realms, and then we get into religion. This is a large section of this book. There are a lot of deities in the Forgotten Realms. And it goes through, in these sections, it goes through all of the general deities, and in the races, it goes over some of the racial deities there. But it goes over a lot of deities in this book. And this section had me, and basically what it is, you know, gives their name, some titles, information and history on them, as well as having, at some point around, so for Torm, yeah, you know, they're something with basically their holy symbol kind of image. But this section just had me inspired. I ended up getting distracted from it for quite a while and going off and writing my own history for a world that I don't know if or when I'll ever use, but I now have it. Because it was inspiring to read. So even though I'm not really probably going to use any of these deities for the most part, it really was inspiring to read what they've done with them. And then we get to Chapter 2, which is the Sword Coast and the North, which is basically what this book is about. And it goes over, you know, different regions, you know, city of Baldur's Gate, Daggerford, etc. With a lot of them have little sections of that map before, enlarged or other new maps. And it does. It just goes over different areas, talking about, you know, what the nobles have been up to, where the area was founded. And the thing about this is they are each from a certain perspective. Essentially, the Lord's Alliance is one section, and I forget who. It's been a while. But essentially, this section is then from one perspective. The Dwarf Holds of the North, it then goes over, you know, who this person is. Let's see. Essentially, yeah, the Dwarf Holds of the North, I know, was by some old dwarf that had been, you know, part of some wars or whatever. But essentially, each of these sections, it is like as given by someone that knows about it. I believe like one of them is like taken as I believe it's this one here. Once we get to the Island Kingdoms, it's like excerpts of someone who wrote a book about traveling. So it's they've done some interesting things. Candlekeep is one of the areas I'd heard of, like I had name recognition for, and they go over it. They talk about the Great Library. They talk about gaining entrance. Court of Air, within the keep, the Avowed, and then the services that are offered. They give, like, not including art, like 3 pages about to Candlekeep, and it was great fun. I had a blast. It was very interesting. And then we get into a few little areas. Just keep going. It's more about geography and the places, with bits of cool art, bits of map to help make sure you know where you are in things. Bit about the Underdark, so that's a big section. It goes over the different regions in the Sword Coast in the north. Then we get to Chapter 3, Races in the Realms. Most of this is just fluff and going over what the different races are, as well as, with Forgotten Realms, which racial options in the player's handbook to use. A few of them, for example, we get the Grey Dwarfs, Duergar. And those are actually new here, and so we actually get a new race. We get rare elf subraces, so those are some options for, those are some different types of elves. So we have the obvious of dark elves, wood elves, sun elves, and moon elves. But then we have these other ones, most of which will say, I believe, give an idea of which, at least some of them. I think some of them gave, use high elves or something like that. Anyways, each of these definitely do. So they're just, again, giving more information. And, of course, at the end of each of these, they have little bits on their deities. For halflings, we do actually get a new subrace for halflings. The Ghostwise halflings is up here. And they're little telepathic halflings. We get some human ethnicities, so name charts. And an optional rule for human languages, which is the idea that all humans don't speak the same language. Let's break that up. Makes the game much more complex, but can make things fun. Again, if you didn't have, essentially because it hasn't been printed in a hard copy book, it was only in that Player's Companion, they do have the Deep Gnomes subrace here. So, we do get half-elf variants, that's what I was saying, which is substituting traits of half-elves for new traits for being certain types of half-elves. And the same sort of thing with Tiefling variants. Certain type of Tieflings get some different abilities, and they do mention Aasimar, which are like, as Tieflings are like demon people, Aasimar are like angel people, and it pretty much just says, hey, that's in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide, go there. And now we get Chapter 4, Classes. And this, for me, this is the bulk of the meat. It's where the fun really was. Starting, we get Barbarians, and we get Path of the Battle Rager, which is a new path based on wearing spiked armor and slamming into people with it, basically. It's designed as dwarves only here, but of course they even say your DM can lift this restriction to better suit the campaign, etc. So it's sort of, in this area, dwarves only as, fluff, but that's really up to your game master. And then we also get, for Path of the Totem Warrior from the Player's Handbook, we get some new animals. We get the elk and tiger. So we have some new options for that. Bards don't actually get any new variants, although they do get some more arbitrary musical instruments. For clerics, we have a new divine domain, which is arcane. So magical divine, arcane divine, whatever. Yeah, it's banishes. What are those? The new channel divinity, holy symbol to one celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend. So your choice. So you have that for banishment. But yeah, so arcane druids get some text. Whatever, nothing. Fighters, however, they get Purple Dragon Knight, which that name has a lot to do with Forgotten Realms in the world. But in general, the idea being, they're sort of that tell people, go do this. Banneret is what they're called, I guess, in other settings. But at 3rd level, when you take it, when you use your second one feature, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 60 feet. Each one regains hit points equal to half your fighter level, so they also regain hit points. Yeah, they also get whatever persuasion and good at it. They get when they use the action surge. This is here 10th level. 10th level is when it's really great. 10th level is when you use your action surge. You can choose a creature within 60 feet of you that can see and hear you, and they can use their reaction to make an attack. And then at 17th level, another person. That's the greatest thing. It's alright, whole bunch of attacks all at once. We get a couple new, for monks, we get a couple new monastic orders, or what are they called? Traditions. Way of the Long Death, which is evil death monks, and Way of the Sun Soul, which is kind of good sun and fire monks. So, some new monks. Paladins get the Oath of the Crown, which is, you're aligned to, the state. It is a very law-based. In that line of lawful good, they are much more the law side of things. But yeah, so that's what we get for Paladins. Nothing really for Rangers. Rogues get a couple. We get the Mastermind and the Swashbuckler. Mastermind being tactical, manipulator, including like in social situations, and Swashbuckler being that, Errol Flynn sort of fight with panache. Get it? But they get, where's that? Strength. You can, whenever you make a melee attack, that person can't use an attack of opportunity against you if you move away from them. So you get to pop in, attack, and then pop out. And I believe, yeah, Rockish also at 3rd level. Charisma modifier to your initiative rolls, so higher initiative, and you do not need advantage on your attack roll to use your sneak attack if no creature other than your target is within 5 feet of you. In other words, if you have another creature that you're friendly with close to them, you get it. If you have advantage, you get it. If no one else is close to you other than them, and you don't have advantage, you get. It's just extra situation to get sneak attack. We have a new sorcerer, which is the storm sorcery. Which, yeah, so wind, and they're, whatever, great seafaring kind of thing, but yeah, it's wind-based sorcery, for the most part. Warlocks get a new patron, which is the Undying, which is like a would be like something like a lich or something, but it's like an undead-based warlock. And then wizards get blade singing, which is like the elf-only version that is fighting with a blade and doing magic as a wizard. They have while their blade song, which is sort of equivalent, it is very much like their blade songs. I mean, it works kind of like Rage for the barbarian, only for a wizard now. And one of the bonuses while doing it is you gain a bonus to your AC equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum +1, which technically means if you stack this with either barbarian or monk, where you're already getting 2 stats, this isn't a new way of calculating it. Most of the ways that they do AC is just a flat calculate it differently so that it's never broken and never goes too high. This one just adds a bonus up to +5 if you have really good stats. So this can make it a very broken way of you can get a much higher AC using them than you could in any other situation. I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, of course. And then we get a few extra cantrips for the arcane casters. Booming Blade, Green Flame Blade, Lightning Lure, and Sword Burst. They're all basically you're attacking with something, and you get this extra effect, or here's a extra effect for your attack. Like some of them are, as part of the action used to cast a spell, you must make a melee attack. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a few extra cantrips. Then we go into backgrounds. City Watch, Clan Crafter, Cloistered Scholar, Courtier, etc. Each of them has, they're like the backgrounds in the player's handbook, except most of them, other than the Far Traveler, who does have their own charts, most of them just reference charts in the player's handbook for suggested characteristics and tell you how to modify them. They do each have their own new feature. Most of them they all have their own section for this. Most of them are worthwhile. 1 or 2 kind of feel lazy. And then they also have explanations of who within the realms. They're very much designed for these are people within the Forgotten Realms. And some of them are very similar to some of the generic ones, but they're more realm specific. Like we even get, it's the last one that we have in here, is the Watered Haven Noble. That's the end of that camera. But yeah, I have 3 pages left I haven't gone over. Suffice to say, after those, which, yeah, Watered Haven Noble, why not just use the normal Noble? It's based on, here's a slightly different version for Forgotten Realms. Anyways, we also have like 3 pages of Appendix, class options in other worlds. It goes over Dragonlance, Eberron, Greyhawk, and your homemade worlds, and it goes over each of those class options, and it gives you ideas for how does this fit in this other world. And it actually begins it up in this little section here of none of the statements here should be treated as canonical for the D&D settings discussed. Instead, take them in the spirit of advice given from one DM to another on how to integrate these new character options into your campaign. So it's the idea, they're gonna, here's just some thoughts, here's some ideas on how you can use the stuff that's in this book if you're not playing in Forgotten Realms. So they, just because you're not playing Forgotten Realms doesn't mean this isn't useful. It does. It has a few extra races, but it has a lot of new class options. Quite a few new class options. So, yeah. And as I said before, that front section, that front chunk of it, the world info, especially the deity info, very inspiring. Even if you're not directly using it for Forgotten Realms, it is inspiring to use it for something else. But yeah, I will link to the book down below. So you can go check it out, get one for yourself, and have a good day.